Anthony Joshua returns to the ring in the country where AJ regained his unified WBA, IBF, and WBO World Championships close to 3 years ago. This time the stage is set in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, when Joshua will look to three-peat as a unified world heavyweight champion on August 20, 2022, taking on undefeated two-weight champion of the world Oleksandr Usyk, a fight labeled The Rage on the Red Sea. Hey Ringsiders, what is going on? This is your host, Boxing's Objective Observer, and welcome back to Ringside Stories, or if you're new, we cover boxing through previews, backstories, and much more. So if you enjoy that type of content, feel free to subscribe, thumbs up, and hit that notification bell for the latest here on Ringside Stories. Thanks so much for your support in advance, and welcome to the channel. The long-awaited rematch between Oleksandr Usyk and Anthony Joshua is a few weeks away. Much can be said about the lead-up, which started pretty much after Usyk defeated AJ in September of 2021. As much can be said about the outcome of Usyk versus Joshua 2 and the shape of the current heavyweight division after this fight. So here are 5 early thoughts to keep in mind before the Rage on the Red Sea, aka Usyk versus Joshua 2. Number 1. Anthony Joshua all in. Now during the press conferences in Saudi Arabia and the UK, Anthony Joshua was, well, being Anthony Joshua.
And in terms of old AJ, same OG, just doing what I'm doing, grafting away. Listen, it's a rough and tough sport, especially fighting these lefties. They're a nightmare, but it is what it is, isn't it? You gotta dig deep, tuck up, and yeah, not make the same mistake twice, basically.
And I don't like to overcomplicate the situation, because there's simplicity and genius. Like, sometimes if you keep things simple, you can achieve great things. So I'm just going to keep things simple, move forward, and the date will soon come.
It's not really where you want to be. I wouldn't advise anyone young to go down that route. You want to keep it, stay there and keep it. So I'm definitely desperate to get my hands on it.
Although many people may not like the persona Anthony Joshua projects in the media, this is him staying in character. And after all, it is all about what AJ will bring in the ring on Fight Night, August 20, 2022. So strategically and tactically, Joshua did bring in the experienced Robert Garcia.
He needs to change his attitude in the ring. He needs to be mean. He can't get hit and smile. Yeah. That happened with him against Usyk in the last round. Like, giving credit to his opponent. You gotta be mad. You gotta get mad because you're getting hit. He needs to have that mentality, the killer instinct.
Although it is unclear what Angel Fernandez's role is, who is still on Team AJ. Number 2, Oleksandr Usyk's mindset. With everything that is going on in Oleksandr Usyk's country, having even been back for months to support his fellow countrymen, I'm pretty sure Usyk has a lot on his mind other than boxing. Now, of course, Oleksandr Usyk is a phenomenal boxer with a well of experience, a two-weight, one-time undisputed world champion, and a future Hall of Famer. Of course, Oleksandr Usyk is a consummate professional, and the Joshua rematch will be Usyk's 9th consecutive world title fight on foreign soil. However, his fight outside of the squared circle affects a human psychology like nothing else. How well has Oleksandr Usyk dealt with his current circumstances? How will those circumstances have shaped him mentally?
I had no objective to knock him out. My trainers, my corner pushed me not to do that.
Now, in the first fight, Oleksandr Usyk was instructed to not stop Anthony Joshua. Will this be different in the rematch? Number 3, legacy defining. So what exactly is at stake for both fighters? Oleksandr Usyk is arguably the greatest cruiserweight of all time, holding all 4 world titles in just 15 professional fights, defeating 3 undefeated reigning world champions in their backyard, including Maris Bradis, who after the Usyk loss went on to win the World Boxing Super Series as well as the IBF and Ring Magazine / Lenil World Cruiserweight titles. That is who Oleksandr Usyk defeated on his home turf, which speaks to Usyk's accomplishments and career as a whole. Regardless of his credentials and skills, Oleksandr Usyk was still underestimated as a heavyweight leading up to Joshua versus Usyk 1.
What Usyk has shown so far as a heavyweight, I'm not convinced he's going to do well as a heavyweight.
I don't think he has the hand speed of an Andy Ruiz, who gave Joshua a lot of problems, a lot of concern, dictate the pace early in that fight, and I think Anthony's going to look for an early knockout in that fight.
A good big one will always beat a good little one, and AJ's a good big one, because one's a cruiserweight, bulking up, and if he bulks up, try and meet him head on, forget about it. That's what his weight class is, isn't they?
There's a guy there, okay, you tricky Southpaw Olympic champion, good for you. Undisputed cruiserweight champion, bam, 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 bam. go to sleep, and that's it. That's going to be pretty brutal.
On September 25, 2022, Oleksandr Usyk proved his doubters wrong and left little to no doubt who the better man was on the night. Again, fighting away from home against a strong and accomplished two-time unified heavyweight champion of the world. If Usyk successfully defends his world titles, defeats AJ for a second time, that would prove the first fight wasn't just a fluke, and that Oleksandr Usyk is the embodiment of a pound-for-pound level elite, meaning a fighter who, regardless of weight class, can still use his skill to topple a top heavyweight. Anthony Joshua has to once again overcome adversity, regaining what was once his. AJ proved he was able to in 2019 when he outboxed Andy Ruiz Jr. in the immediate rematch in Garcia, Saudi Arabia. But simply put, Oleksandr Usyk is not Andy Ruiz Jr.
Yeah, it's not my business. Think how Anthony training, what Anthony do. I think what I do, my work, my training camp, my eat, my family, my country. I not think Anthony.
And the loss will put a huge red flag on Anthony Joshua's career, at least according to some of Joshua's critics.
Bit of a padded record. Fought people when they're over the hill and got beat by everyone he stepped up to.
Although there's some truth to Fury's statements, AJ has proven his willingness to fight all comers. Don't forget, Oleksandr Usyk was the mandatory for AJ's WBO title at the time, which AJ could have easily dropped. Having to right his wrong will be an uphill battle for Anthony Joshua, which is what has made Joshua's career so far more than interesting. Actually, Joshua's career draws parallels to countryman Lennox Lewis, who had to prove his doubters and many of the American boxing establishment wrong. Today's criticism of Anthony Joshua includes AJ's questionable chin, questionable cardio, and AJ's lacking heart. And so if Joshua beats Usyk, AJ is a three-time unified heavyweight champion of the world and must get his just due for beating an elite pound-for-pound level opponent. On the other hand, a loss against Usyk in the immediate rematch will not only set back AJ's pursuit of becoming the first undisputed heavyweight world champion since Lennox Lewis in 1999, it will most likely change the perception of many boxing fans and confirm what many of AJ's critics have said from the beginning. And unfortunately, boxing legacy is about how people perceive you. That is what it means if AJ loses the Usyk rematch. Number 4, winner for undisputed. As of today's recording, Tyson Fury hasn't vacated his belt, which indicate Tyson Fury isn't done with boxing, at least not yet officially.
Everything's for sale and everything has a price. And 500 million is my price. And if anyone's willing to pay that, then they're willing, then I will gladly give them what they want.
He wants 500 million.
Він хоче 500 мільйонів.
Він шуткує.
He's probably kidding.
500 лямів? Хто йому дасть 500 лямів?
500 million. Who would give him 500 million?
Я теж хочу 500 мільйонів, і що?
I also want 500 million, and what?
What do you say? Like, no, he should only get to 100. Like, well done. Like, talk your in it. If you want a 500 million or billion, whatever it is, talk your you might get it. Speak into existence. If that's what he wants, someone throw up the dough. If they really want to see Tyson Fury fight again, throw up the dough.
But I don't want to come out of retirement. And I put a massive number on it. And if anyone wants to pay it, they know where to come.
Now, astute boxing fans know that Tyson Fury is a master of mind games as he plays the media, knowing exactly the audience he is in front of.
I want to fight Usyk next for all the belts. And that's it, really. And then he can fight the winner. That's it, then I'm done.
What's funny is that before his loss to Andy Ruiz Jr., Team Joshua heavily pursued the fight for undisputed on multiple occasions before Tyson Fury even got back to boxing. Also, before AJ's loss to Usyk, the fight for undisputed, which would have been the first between two British world champions and the most lucrative fight of all time, fell through publicly, which Tyson Fury simply cannot deny.
I've just got off the phone from Prince Khalid of Saudi Arabia. He told me this fight's a 100% on. August 14th, 2021 summertime. All eyes of the world will be on the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. I'm not optimistic that the fight will ever happen, to be fair.
You don't think he wants it?
Nah. He talks a good game, but is he really a fighting man? I'm not really too sure.
Of course I want to challenge. It's not about the opponent, it's about the legacy and the belt. Whoever's got the belt, I'd love to compete with them. If that is Tyson Fury, let it be Tyson Fury.
And Joshua tried to make that fight 6 times at least, in my memory, in the past 5 years, and been unsuccessful every single time.
What's happening, AJ?
Training, keep my life simple. When are we fighting?
When are we fighting? Behave yourself.
It sounds like 2021.
I only called you up to say hello.
Because you're messing with a diva who don't want to fight.
2 British world heavyweight champions for the undisputed heavyweight champion. No, and it will never be done again.
It's history in the making. That bird has flown.
All that being said, the fight for the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world between Tyson Fury and either Oleksandr Usyk or Anthony Joshua would be interesting for different reasons. But in a year where so far 2 fights for undisputed have taken place and more are talked about for the second half of 2022, it would be more than fitting to have the heavyweight division follow suit. Number 5, Usyk versus Joshua 2, the intrigue. Apart from the possibility for undisputed, Usyk versus Joshua 2 is an intriguing matchup in and of itself. The first Joshua versus Usyk fight proved a couple of things: that Anthony Joshua cannot box with Oleksandr Usyk, who is a pound-for-pound elite. Boxing, technically speaking, Oleksandr Usyk is miles ahead of Anthony Joshua, who understand there's a lot hanging on this fight. Although AJ got soundly outboxed for the vast majority of that fight, he did show some improvement during the mid-rounds, which so far in his career have been his historically weakest rounds. Now, almost 1 year later, Anthony Joshua has had much time to reflect on the first Usyk fight. Joshua has made some much-needed changes, i.e. getting rid of Rob McCracken, and instead assigned Robert Garcia, who is accomplished at world level both as a fighter and a trainer. Grandpa, who Robert Garcia is known by, has a track record of successes with offensively minded fighters, yet has no experience training world-class heavyweights, and this is AJ's first outing with Robert Garcia on fairly short notice. How much of a difference can Garcia make?
I'm excited. I always thought maybe heavyweights is not a good idea because their way of training is a lot different than a lightweight. And we're used to doing a lot of rounds in mid, speed, running a lot more. With heavyweights, it's a different story. But, the 2 weeks I've spent with him in December and then again 2 months ago, he works as hard as any lightweight. This opportunity came and I love that challenge, especially coming off a loss and getting the rematch. It's a great challenge for me. I know it's not going to be easy, but I'm going to do whatever it takes to get Anthony to become champion again.
Oleksandr Usyk, on the other hand, has fought other battles outside of his field of operation. How has that affected his preparation?
Normal cities, not the military infrastructure. They are bombing just civilian residential houses, shopping centers, the places where the civilian people used to live and spend time.
The learning's done. It's war. It's just straight war. I'm annoyed. I'm done with losing. I'm done with trying to learn the boxing sweet science. Whether the ref likes my style or not, he might get thrown on the floor in the next fight because this is war, innit?
If Anthony Joshua indeed chooses a different approach, how will Usyk adapt? Will Usyk try to make a statement to boost his country's morale? Will Usyk open up opportunities if he decides to take AJ out? So many questions to answer during the Rage on the Red Sea, aka Usyk versus Joshua 2, on August 20, 2022 in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. These are just my observation. What are yours? Let us know in the comments below. If you like more content like this and you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe, give a thumbs up, and hit that notification bell. It helps the channel out a lot, i.e. inspire us to make more quality content for y'all. As always, thank you so much for your support and welcome to Ringside Stories. Now, if you've done that already, you're amazing. We already know that you are the true undisputed world champion. Till next time, Ringsiders, this is your host, Boxing's Objective Observer with Ringside Stories. Thanks for watching and have a legendary day.